Nice work.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jessica Burdeaux, all the way from Chicago.
Chicago, yes.
I originally thought, because we're in Canada, I thought Burdeaux, the last name is going to be French, but she's not. She's from Chicago. So welcome to Drumeo.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm very excited to be here.
Nice. If you haven't heard of Jessica, you got to check her out. She's. I originally discovered you on Instagram.
Yes.
And that's at Jbird's Beats.
Yeah, Jbird's Beats.
Jbird's Beats.
Yep.
And that's as well as Facebook and YouTube. And we have a really, really great lesson planned for you today, and we're super excited that you're out here.
Very happy.
What do you think of it so far?
I love it. Oh
yeah?
Man, it's been so awesome. Every aspect so far has just been great.
Nice.
So.
Well, that track was really, really cool. Very, very technical. A lot of the changes and everything like that. A bold choice.
Thank
for your first drumming lesson.
Yeah, it's just one of those ones that really made me feel like I was allowed to open up and kind of improvise a little bit. And
sounds awesome.
Thanks.
So that's a track called Ambar?
Yes, that's by my friend Madu Martinez.
Madu Martinez.
It's an original by her. Very good guitar player. Yeah.
Awesome. So if this is your first time checking out Drumeo, this is one of the things we do here. We basically bring out some of the greatest drummers in the world, and we do these lessons. And this lesson is all about practice tips to become a well-rounded drummer. And so Jessica's also filmed some other stuff inside of Drumeo, which is only for members. And so if you want to get access to that, you can get a free trial at drumeo.com/trial at any time. It's a free 7-day trial. But with that said, let's get into this. This is a fun topic, and it's going to be a fun little discussion here on practice tips to become a well-rounded drummer. Because practicing, I think, is one of the things that pretty much all of us do.
Yeah.
Or all of us should do.
Yeah, hopefully.
Right? So what does it mean to you to be a well-rounded drummer?
So for me, being a well-rounded drummer, I guess I should start by saying that there was a time in my life when I left school or graduated from college, and I knew that I wanted to pursue the drums professionally. And so at that time, I felt like a very one-dimensional player. And so in order to achieve what I needed to achieve, I wanted to take on a lot of different styles and things that would allow me to pick up gigs of all varieties and do studio work and be able to tour with many different kinds of artists. And so for me, being a well-rounded drummer is someone that has capabilities to work with many different kinds of musicians. And it doesn't mean being perfect in all genres by any means. It just means that you're able to kind of adapt, and these are just some things that I've done to help me with that.
I always think of, when I think of a well-rounded drummer, I think of Vinnie Colaiuta.
Oh, yeah.
Playing with, he plays metal, he plays funk, he plays jazz, and everything. And that's, if you're wondering whether or not you should be a well-rounded drummer, it's probably someone good to look
great person to look up to.
Yeah.
And I should say too, like, this is something I'm striving to be still. Right. By no means have I mastered all areas of drumming, and that's what I'm talking about, is that things I've done to kind of help me get in the right direction, but we're always all working on that.
Exactly, and really the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yes.
And so that's the problem with drumming, is like, maybe we should all just stop learning, right?
Right.
But so let's get into some tips on what you do to actually become a well-rounded drummer. And so you mentioned something about how you develop your practice routine, and I thought there was, I talked to so many drummers, thousands of drummers, and every single person has different methods, different things on that to do. And so I find it fascinating, because practice is something, like I said, everyone does. Everyone has their own methods. Some things, I've heard some things from some people, and I've said, I don't do it at all. But I hear other things, and I start doing them right away, and they make like such a huge difference, right? So I think this kind of stuff, for all you watching out there, these are the type of tips that can literally change your drumming. And so I'm really excited to get into it with you.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay, so practice routine. What are you doing to develop your practice routine?
So I think the most important thing is, at that time that I mentioned earlier, where I realized I had never had a practice routine before. I think when I grew up, I was always just playing other drum parts. For example, I grew up listening to a lot of Blink-182 and Paramore, and so I would just sit in my basement and try and imitate those parts. And at the time, I thought that was practicing. And on some level, it is. That helped me become a better player too. But when I realized I needed to develop a practice routine to become just a better drummer in general, one of the things I did was I started by identifying the goal of what is it that I need to practice, because it's so easy to think, oh man, I need to practice everything. I mean, there's so much to tackle. It could be really overwhelming when you're thinking to yourself, where do I even begin to practice? So I think it helps by identifying your goal of what it is you want to practice for. For me, I want to become someone, or wanted to become somebody that could do the things I talked about earlier, you know, take on many gigs and studio work and all those things. So maybe your goal, though, is to support a band, or you have a band and you want to practice that. So for me, I started by asking myself those questions. What is it that I want to do or get better at?
Yeah.
And so in order to develop a practice routine to tackle all of those areas, I decided to kind of just pick something at first. So I would play things like paradiddles and try and be creative with those. And so that's the main thing, though, is identifying the goal that you have and want to accomplish in order to start developing a practice routine.
Right. So now you play with a band called City Mouth.
City Mouth,
right?
yeah.
And if you haven't checked, you guys should totally check them out. Sorry, I forgot to say it at the beginning.
No, that's fine.
So when, like, how recent is that band experience?
I think I joined City Mouth back in November.
Okay, so it's relatively recent.
Yeah,
so
new.
Was this one of your goals that you identified early on, or?
Always, and that's a great point. Like, I knew a long time ago that I wanted to be in a band, that I wanted to be playing live shows and writing music, originals, and so that has always been a goal of mine for sure, is to play with a band like that.
Yeah. So, like, what is, like, when you do you think of goals as, like, you know, the big ultimate goal? In the business world, they call it BHAG. Have you ever heard that term before?
I don't think
it's
so.
called, like, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Oh no!
And so it's like the thing that you'll probably look there. Okay. It's a thing that it's a thing that you'll probably never achieve, but you're gonna at least, like, shoot for the stars, right? So do you have that? Like, what is your perfect scenario? The biggest thing that you can dream for yourself when it comes to your drumming goals or musical goals?
Oh, well, I know for sure that I would at least at some point in my life love to play like a stadium tour. So, you know, I would love to play some really big live shows, like just the energy of concerts.
What artists?
Oh, well, I mean,
you gotta say, they're probably listening.
I love Paramore. I know that their original drummer just joined again, but I do love Paramore a lot.
So she is the new drummer for Paramore.
Yeah. If we say it, it's true. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes.
It's all. This is all about mindset.
Yes.
Okay? So when it comes to, like, some of the smaller goals, like, I was watching what you're playing and all the different changes when it comes to, like, the shuffle stuff, going to the straight. When you were kind of first learning, and even to this time when you practice, like, when it comes to, like, learning to shuffle, which is completely different than what most drummers start with, was that, like, one of those smaller goals that you had set for yourself, or did it just naturally happen?
Yeah, well, I think, you know, in the beginning, because obviously I felt very comfortable playing like rock beats and really heavy hitting punk beats and things like that. But I always wanted to be able to achieve kind of like quick little, like, ghost note shuffle, and so yes, that was definitely a goal of mine for sure. And that song had a lot going on as far as a lot of changes, and I don't think I would have felt as comfortable back then taking on a song like that, where it's so much going on and a lot of detail. So that was my goal too, to be able to take on pieces like this and feel like I can really own that. So
yeah, like, when I first heard the song Rosanna by Toto, and that's when I decided I wanted to learn how to play a shuffle. Right. So I know one of your points you wrote down here is expose yourself to new music. Right?
Yes.
So what are you listening to right now that you want to recommend to everyone? What's, like, the one top band?
Well, I think over time, I think I started listening more to bands like Animals as Leaders and like metal stuff, and then definitely got into some more, like, I tried to explore jazz and things that I never would really just throw on my iPod to listen to drummers that are, you know, just kind of legendary, and that I wanted to start internalizing those. So I started listening to all, not necessarily one band, but trying to just throw on different, on Spotify or something, different genres of music, jazz, EDM kind of stuff, hip hop, like all across the board. So not even necessarily one specific artist. And whether I stayed, sometimes I would just listen to bands that I didn't even continue listening to after a couple times or something, but just to do that, because you never know, you might just hear something that catches your ear and changes your whole style or your outlook.
Yeah. Okay, when we were meeting about this lesson before, you made one comment, which I'm going to ask you about, because it was very, I think the wording was very important. And you said, what do you want to get better at, and why?
Right.
And this is what I think is very important in that. So when you, what are you currently trying to get better at, and why are you trying to get better at that?
So for me, something that I want to get better at is single pedal doubles.
Okay.
That was something that always was just very, seemed so unachievable at some point. For some reason, just getting your foot to speak naturally while you're playing. And so that's something I'm working on now, and something I've been working on just for the past few months, just because it's something that has always been a goal of mine. And
I have motors in my beaters, so
yeah.
I don't have to worry about it. It just does it automatically.
It's really nice. I got to do that.
No, you got the low boy beater on there. So
yeah,
do you mind
got a low boy.
Showing us what you're doing to? And I know it's always tough because you come to these lessons, everyone wants to play perfect, but show us what you're practicing as one of your goals, and show us some of the struggles you're having, and maybe kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and also it's okay to struggle. Anyone that says they've ever sat down and played something perfect, well, sometimes that's totally true. People can do that, but most everybody has something they're working on. Right. And so for me, I've been working on this exercise, just kind of I would like to get that really fast, and on some level, I've achieved that. Trying to get it up to speed. Here's a little.
Yeah, do it.
Let's
Come
see
on.
how this example goes.
I want to see a crash and burn.
Right, and this is what my real life practice sessions look like. Me just kind of taking a metronome and going to trying stuff like this. So. Getting it up to speed and. Getting faster, and I've in some way started to incorporate that in songs, just because I think we always tell ourselves that certain things are not ready to be put into a song yet or put into a recording yet, and sometimes that's true, but I think if we force ourselves to go for things sometimes, that's, and you hear it in context, you start to feel a lot more comfortable. So no matter what recording sessions or whatever you have coming up, sometimes you just got to make yourself do something, because it's always worth a shot, unless it's a one-shot deal. Then,
In the first song, you used that fast.
Yeah, and in that context, I was kind of doing like a drag on the bass drum. I was like. More comfortable than like that type of thing.
Right.
And that's interesting. I'm learning that too, how some single pedal doubles can feel comfortable and others don't. You know.
Well, you're playing it as triplets, and normally with doubles, in groups of four, to phrase it as triplets is always way different, because we're so used to everything as 16ths or 30 seconds.
Yeah, and that's something we'll probably touch on with one of our next topics. Is playing. That's something that helped me a lot. Is I started learning a new style of music that opened my mind up to phrasing things in triplets and 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, and that was mind blowing for me. I never really done that. So.
Nice. Okay, so when it comes back to this, why did you decide you wanted to practice that?
I think that I started to feel like I'm not fast enough. That was something that I always felt I wanted to work on, that I wasn't fast enough. And
why?
And why don't I feel I'm fast enough?
Yeah.
See, I don't know. I think we all have our thing. I think now it's gotten a lot better. This is back in the day when I was like trying a lot of different stuff on the drums, and but that's still I always want to get faster or tighter, you know. But the single pedal, I just feel like I've always wanted to learn double pedal too, and I've done some stuff with the double pedal before, but still would like to get deeper into that. However, I was always amazed by players that could play like these blinding fast licks with just their one pedal. So I think that it was always kind of something I envied in other players and would absolutely love to have that vocabulary to be able to just, you know.
Right.
So that's the main reason. I just think it sounds
so you're
very
inspired.
Cool. Yeah, and it allows more creativity too, I feel.
Yeah.
Frees up your hands to do stuff while your foot is kind of holding down parts. So all kinds of reasons.
That's very, very cool. So that's like, you know, that was the point we were going to say, to challenge yourself with something brand new. And so when it comes to your future outlook, is there anything else? Like, because you got that pretty good. You're kind of rocking with that now, but what's the next thing? What's the thing that you currently haven't even started to explore yet that you know you want to challenge yourself with?
Man, you know, that's a really interesting question, because I think every day I say something different to myself. I think I'm always wanting to, like, oh, you know, I should start working on jazz more, or you know what, no, I should start working on metal more, or just I'm all over the place. So I think really instead of a specific thing on the drums, I think more about wanting to learn more about different styles of music.
Right.
And I have on some level gotten into those things, but I've only scratched the surface of some different genres that I would really love to get deeper into. So, and with that, you learn a lot of things that you'd never even maybe thought to play, or it'll reveal to you things like the single pedal strength, or all kinds of things, coordination and all that.
Yeah. Well, it's like I've tried to play jazz for years and I stink at it.
It's hard.
I stink so bad at it. But I always tell people, like, you learn that because there's so many related benefits, right? If you mostly play or gig with rock, you start learning jazz, that's gonna kind of weave itself into your rock playing in many different ways. And you look at a lot of the old school rock drummers, they play with a swing feel because that style kind of came from jazz, right? Yeah. And so I think it's super smart to practice different styles. I mean, I saw you playing what is that groove you were playing before you started? The
Bakutsi?
Yeah, the Bakutsi.
Oh, yeah, the Bakutsi, the African rhythms.
Are you going to play that for everyone, or is that like too much on the spot?
I will. I can, yeah. I would love to.
Okay.
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, right now? Even later. So.
No, I want to show people, because this is like, when we talk about challenging yourself with something new, you know, Jessica, I know you're not like, I don't think you go out and play Latin gigs or anything like that.
I do not.
Not yet, right?
Not yet.
But you want to become a versatile drummer, and so one of the tips is to practice something brand new that's completely out of your comfort zone. And when I heard you playing this groove, that I'm totally throwing you under the bus, asking you to play on the spot, I thought it was super cool. And so I want to show you, this is kind of what it takes, because a lot of people think that they can get better without actually putting in a lot of hard work. Yeah. And so I look at this groove that you've got here, there's no way you could just listen to this and play it off the bat, right?
Yeah, it's
this
tough.
groove takes like, okay, what is my right hand doing? What is my left, right? It's very, very, you have a lot of discipline to do it.
Yeah.
And so this, I think, is a great example.
Yes.
Good luck.
So this is
Godspeed.
This is the Bakutsi, yeah. So.
Good, thank you.
So that's the Bakutsi, and that was from, I started studying, and that was another thing that really helped me, is I started to explore new styles, and I started taking lessons from a man named Earl Talbot, who taught me rhythms of Cameroon. And so the Bakutsi is Cameroonian rhythm, and he studied with a man named Christian Burdeaux, and it goes a lot deeper than that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, so that's just scratching the surface. But
I guarantee you the Latin police will be out on that. Like every time I teach anything Latin or show anything Latin, people are always the Latin police come out right away.
Yeah, it's it's a lot. Like that one took me, and I really had to think about what I was playing. Like I could not. It took me several tries to just get 2 parts of the groove right. And then adding all the layers, it's like the second you get one thing, you add another thing, and it just makes your hands forget what they were just doing, or
Have you ever heard the abacois?
I don't think so.
It's similar, but like this hand is doing some 3-note pattern. This hand's doing a 2-note pattern split over the thing.
Yeah.
The feet are doing like 8th-note triplets, but the left foot is doing doubles. It's just like one of those exact same as like this.
A lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, right? You're basically like 4 people on. Like you're trying to emulate 4 people with all those rhythms.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And the whole idea of practicing something that makes you think, like I was saying, that for me was game changing, because I think forever I was just, for a long time growing up and when I first was playing, I would just play things that were in my my comfort zone, and so I didn't have to, even if I was working on getting my paradiddles faster. Right. I knew that maybe my hands needed to keep up with a certain tempo, but like I didn't have to think about what they were doing. Like I just knew I needed to get that sticking faster. With this, I would leave practice sessions with noticeable growth. Things that I was like, okay, I still need to work on the foot, and I'm always working on this stuff because it's, it just blows my mind. But it was really encouraging. I was trying something that was so difficult for me, but I was able to see growth with each practice session. Like it was a good way to gauge progress rather than playing something that's like, okay, I'm going to make my rudiments faster, or that's always important too. Or but that was really important for me to become a better player, was doing something that felt so difficult and to see the progression.
I totally agree, and this is like super underrated. Is like when you practice, it shouldn't sound great. It should probably sound bad, especially if you're in the beginning stages. And when you practice, you should try and practice stuff. There's maintenance, and then there's stuff that you don't know. You're learning from scratch. And so a lot of drummers just maintain. They don't learn new stuff.
That's a great point, maintenance.
And I think, yeah, it's great. Okay, so let's get into some coordination and independence exercise. I think this is a cool one that you have. And we do have the sheet music here for you, so if you can go ahead and download that or do whatever you need to do to get it. But what do you got for us here? Coordination, independence.
Okay, so this is in 12/8, and this is, once again, kind of just the core of what I started to learn before I got into like the African rhythm patterns, like the Bakutsi and things like that. And so pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to take, it's going to be 3 note groupings. So it's going to be 1, 2, 3. At its core, actually, it's 1. And I think it's so important to keep the hi-hat rocking for this exercise. And the thing that is going to be, that helped me the most, or that was when I first started doing it, I had to think about the most, was the way my hi-hat was interacting with each accent, moving from partial to partial. So we're going to accent the first partial, then move it to the second, then the third. So and now you can also, and it's very telling to move that to the cymbals, and you'll see how tight your accents are, and it really starts to open up all your limbs. This was very helpful for me in that sense, to challenge all 4 of my limbs. So. Move that exercise all around, and so you're just keeping the hi-hat going on the first partial of each group of 3. And the next variation of this that I really like to do was to move that around the toms, and so. It's funny because to me, when you first hear it, it's like, okay, just da 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 da, you know. But the way it feels to have everything bouncing around like that with your hi-hat foot going, it really just kind of throws you for a loop. And it really helped me learn to keep my foot going, which is another thing that helped me in all areas, was my hi-hat foot independence.
Right.
My left foot, when I was growing up and playing and all that, was, I feel, kind of dead, just because I never really thought about it. But studying that coordination exercise and African rhythms and getting into all that really opened my eyes to the importance of how much it helps to keep your hi-hat foot rocking to some capacity while you're playing, and really any style.
Yeah.
So, but that's a fun groove, and when you speed that up, it's really, it helped me with a lot of different, just kind of moving from each side of the kit to the other. Like, right. I don't feel like I was as open before that kind of exercise, because you do that up here too. You could really move it around any part of the kit. Yeah,
and even in the intro song, you did that crossover, right?
Oh yeah,
which is terrifying to do on a live stream. But
yes, yes it is, but I went for it.
I pretty much guarantee you I messed that one up.
It was rough.
Here's what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's go nice and slow, and I want everyone watching to play along with Jessica. I believe the sheet music will be on screen. The good people in the back, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Kyle, will hopefully have that up for you. And try and tap along with what Jessica is doing while keeping your hi-hat foot moving. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Just play it for like a minute straight, and then I'll get everyone who's watching, or everyone who's watching wherever you are, just leave a comment below and tell us if you got it. Tell us if you were able to play along with her.
And another thing I'll mention about this too is one of the more challenging parts that you wouldn't think is that challenging is making sure that there's a very clear difference between your accented note and your unaccented note. So instead of, you gotta, that idea.
I'm gonna do it with you because I'm totally gonna bomb.
Do you want me to play? Do you want to play on the snare? Or?
No, I'm just gonna tap my legs, just like everyone else.
Okay. Okay. All right. So
you do it with your stick.
Okay.
Yeah, you do it with your stick. Everyone will just watch me. I don't want them to hear me mess up.
All right. So should I give a 1, 2, 3, 4?
I totally messed up like 10 times.
It's weird. It's crazy. Like, you wouldn't think that it would be so hard to like feel it the right way, but I know for me it was initially. So
yeah, and then let's do it left-hand lead, and that's totally different because it reverses all the placements of the accents.
Yeah, and you could also, there's other variations too where you could put like the bass drum on each accent. So let's see, I haven't. Double in there, or not double, but you know, so that helps to tighten everything up.
Yeah, and then you can make the ghost strokes double strokes as 16th note triplets. Dun, 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 dun,
yes,
dun, dun.
Yeah. So
again,
go ahead,
torture yourself if you want.
Yeah, it's that's so.
Hey, nice work. I was just throwing that out there.
Well, I did it.
Okay, so if you want to learn one thing new, like we just said in the second point, challenge yourself. This is such a good exercise. This is a warm up. This is something like you mentioned it helps you write better beats, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Because my mind couldn't even go to that place before. Those.
Right.
You know, with my foot and like coordinating everything, it definitely helped. Yeah, especially that Bakutsi beat and those kinds of things, which in the first song I played, a lot of that kind of those beats were influenced by that kind of style.
Cool. So. Jessica, that was a great lesson. Good stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah. Do you have anything else to add to the lesson portion? We're going to play some more music soon, just so you'll know.
I think that just about covers it.
So the next song here is called Noise.
That's the working title. It's just a little original kind of electronic song, and the working title is technically Nostalgia, but we're gonna call it Nos because I like that too.
I'm gonna blame Dave for
it was labeled as Nos on
Dave,
everything.
You're fired.
Yeah.
Let's give out his phone number.
The Nos remix.
The Nos remix.
All right, cool.
Just give Taylor the thumbs up when you're ready to go.
All right, here she comes. Couple seconds.
Nice work. Everyone out there is just clapping like crazy. Lots of virtual applause.
Thank you.
You okay to take a couple questions?
I'd love to, yeah. Let's hear it.
Nice. First one is, and just for those watching, because people are watching everywhere, these questions are only from the Drumeo members. So that's the only way you can submit a question. Sorry to everyone else.
Yeah.
Jo Beth says, can you talk about the importance of learning tunes, learning songs?
Oh, man. So just like cover songs, things like that?
I guess any originals, covers.
So I think that when you learn songs, especially a variety of songs, you're taking on these parts that maybe you wouldn't have decided to learn on their own, or a different style or something, and you're having fun with it. So you end up learning a bunch of different songs, and then all of a sudden you have a lot of different styles in your wheelhouse, or you have all these different little fills that maybe you might not have thought of on your own. I mean, it's very important, I think, to learn songs. And for me, and that's something I want to touch on too, is I've done a lot of cover videos and things like that. And especially if you're learning songs and recording them, and then matching up maybe your drum part to the original track, you're able to gauge how tight you're playing. You're able to make your playing a lot tighter. And it's an awesome way to get better at the drums in a fun way, in a way that's exciting. And so I think it's pretty important, and it was very important for my development too.
Yeah. If you want to see Jessica play songs, check out her YouTube channel at JBirds Beats.
Yeah.
Nice. This one's from Danny O. He says, "Hey Jessica and Jared, it's great to have you on Drumeo, and it's nice to see more female drummers.
Hi.
My question is, what is your go-to beat that you always go back to?" I love this question as well.
Oh, that's a really good one. I have this diddly little beat that I love to play, and actually it's made its way into quite a few of my covers in some way, shape, or fashion. Should I play it?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And teach it, please.
So it all started from this little lickety. I don't even know what to call it. That right there. That's the idea of it. Yeah, to break it down, but that's the one right there.
It's an inverted double stroke,
Yeah.
played as 30-second notes. So right, left, left, right, right, left, left, right. I'm going too long.
Yeah, so
too many.
with that one.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's the one.
Well, I can definitely hear, like in your playing, you said you listen to a lot of Travis Barker and stuff. Like,
yeah.
You think very much in parts, and you think your fills are almost hooks, and that type of beat is very much a hook, right?
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of the reason. Yeah, definitely, because he does a lot of that kind of stuff,
like
and
all
super huge part of like how I learned to play, playing along to his tracks.
Yeah, it's great.
He's great at writing parts.
Okay, this is from Eddie. Eddie says, "I'm a beginner, so I play along with the metronome and songs, along with other practicing. When you broke away from that and started playing in a band, did you find it difficult to transition from being the metronome rather than listening to it?"
That's interesting. So just make sure, like, I even play with a metronome when I'm playing with my band too.
You play the tracks?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So when we rehearse, I always use a metronome, and when we play live, I have the backing tracks and the metronome in my ear too. So haven't quite broken away from the metronome. Don't know if I ever will.
Does the other bandmates hear the metronome, or just you?
Just me. Yeah,
Just
I'm
you.
the only one that has the click in my ears.
Okay.
So, but I love the metronome. I mean,
Right.
it helps so much to see where you're at with certain things.
Nice. Mason Davis says, "How the heck do you do that fast bass drum?" Now they want to know, like, what are you actually doing? So maybe let's get on the foot cam here.
So the fast bass drum that I was doing,
Maybe
like
the
with
drag thing. That you
yeah,
did?
probably that. So that's an interesting question, because I feel like, man.
Let me
So
see.
I've never really thought about what my technique is for that particular little.
So you just like ground it out, like you just.
Yeah, I think that. So if I was to play it slow, I think I lift kinda and get similar with like a double, where you get that initial push and then it kind of gives it to you again. So I'm trying to go slow so
You can't. You do like a hybrid of the. Me and Dave are always big into like foot techniques, but you do a hybrid of like heel, toe, and slide, which is cool because your foot, you kind of hit the heel, but then this kind of pops back up, but your foot stays in one place almost.
It's
right?
interesting because I always went in with the intention of doing the things that, like the popular foot techniques, and I think
Right.
that after a while you just kind of start doing something that works for you, you know. So
Yeah.
as long as you're getting out that sound, that quick little drag there, I
Yeah.
guess it's whatever's
Exactly.
best for you, you know.
Some people don't like to talk about this. I'm just such a drum nerd. I love to talk about like, techniques to like make the bass drum faster or whatever. So
Oh yeah.
it's great. This is from Isabel. It says, do you find practicing in short bursts or longer periods to be more productive?
That's an awesome question because it really depends on the day. And some days you might not even, some days it's best to just not practice, like depending on what's going on. If you got something like the next day, you should try practice. But I think that it depends on your schedule, depends on everything. If you could squeeze in half an hour, that's beneficial. Sometimes I'll feel better about a half an hour practice session than I did about a 3 hour. And sometimes my practices will stretch from anywhere from 15 minutes to 3 hours, maybe in 4, depending on the day.
Right.
But sometimes if you feel like that you were able to accomplish your goal in a short period of time and you don't really have time for more practice, or maybe you do and you just need a break, it really just depends on what's best for you and what's going on.
Isabel also asked a follow-up question about how do you actually think about how you split up your practice time?
Yeah, sometimes, and this kind of goes into the whole idea of identifying the goal. Like sometimes I'll know that I need to work on, say, like a few different songs, or I know that I want to work on my single pedal technique, and then maybe I'll go into practicing songs for a gig or something. But I think sometimes I go in knowing I want to work on one thing, and then I work on it a lot, and then decide, okay, it's time to take a break and think about something else, and then maybe come back, revisit what I was working on prior to that. So sometimes, and the question was, how do I split it up, right?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
just making sure. So it really just depends on the day or what's going on that I split things up a certain way or go in with that intent.
Because you're gigging, and so you also have to learn stuff that you're
Right.
for. This is from 1J Drummer. He says, hey, Jessica, enjoyed watching you play. One question I had was, who or what inspired you to play the drums?
You know, that's an interesting thing because I knew from like a really young age, my parents had bought my brother like a little first act drum set, and he never really took an interest in it, and that was before I was even in 5th grade. I was really young, and so when I got to 5th grade, I knew right away that was when we picked an instrument. I knew I wanted to be in percussion. Like there was no questions. And so I don't even really know because my family, like they're not a bunch of musicians or anything, and when I was that young, you know, like what was that? Like I was like 8 or something prior to picking my instrument in 5th grade when he got that drum set, and I saw it and I just kind of knew I was into it. I don't even know. It just happened that way. And I've had a lot of inspirational musicians in my life since then, and like a lot of things that have happened since I started the journey on the drums, but like knowing that I wanted to play the drums, I don't even know. I just knew. Like,
The drums found you.
The drums found me. That's right.
Okay, one last question, then we're going to play you got one more song for us,
Yeah, one more
correct?
song.
Awesome. This is from Dusky. He says, what is your approach to breaking down drum parts when listening to songs? Because you mentioned Travis Barker. He says he seems to get lost. So do you write out the drum parts, or do you continually pause and rewind the track?
Okay, so learning the parts that are in a song you
Yeah.
like. So for me, I did a lot of just listening, and I would experiment and try and see what sounded the closest to what I was hearing in the track, and was able to learn a lot that way, and literally slowing the track down to like pulling it into a program and slowing it down, you know, making it half the tempo. That's really helpful, trying to figure parts out too. And also watching videos. If it's a drummer, like a popular drummer, for me, you know, learning Travis parts, there's so many videos online where I'm able to see what he was doing or get a better idea, or watching other people's covers. And so there's all kinds of ways you could do that. But if you want to try and do it, write out the notation, I mean, that's an amazing idea too. But I did most of listening and watching.
Right. That's cool. Jessica, you did great.
Thank you.
Okay? It's a lot of pressure coming in here, all these people that you just met yesterday.
Yes.
Welcome to Canada. Welcome to Drumeo. You're back. You're welcome back.
Oh,
anytime.
thank you. I would love to come back. This has been amazing.
Make sure you guys and gals support Jessica. Check her out. Follow her on Instagram at JBirdsBeats. On YouTube, if you want to see more of her drumming, playing to lots of covers.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we're going to see more and more and more and more from you over the years. And so thank you for sharing everything.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Nice. I'm going to go chill over there while you play this last track. So just let me move out of here, and then we'll get it going.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, just got about a couple seconds here. Let's kind of shoot it off.
All right.
My body and blood, Lord, my soul in my skin. I'm not sure what they're there for, but I know where they've been. I'm waking up with bruises I don't recognize. I think I died last night, and in a strange twist of fate, I woke up in the same tired state as I do every day. I don't know why I still drink. I think I'm starting to outgrow regretting things that I can barely remember. But one way or another, I can't seem to put this sacrifice to rest. My body and blood, Lord, my soul in my skin. I'm not sure what they're there for, but I know where they've been. And I know what these eyes have seen is easily forgotten. And every day goes by and everything dies eventually, but nothing happens to the goal. I woke up in the strangest place. I've got no coat, and it's cold, but I walk home, retracing faces and footprints that followed me to your bed. I'd like to stay, but I run instead. I left no number, no proof that I exist. Not that you're leading, you could see the signs of trouble on my skin. I woke up shaking like I always do, and I just know I'm gonna scare you away. My body and blood, Lord, my soul in my skin. I'm not sure what they're there for, but I know where they've been. And I know what these eyes have seen is easily forgotten. Every day goes by and everything dies eventually, but nothing happens to the ghost. Holy Ghost, you still haunt the vacant holes in my bones. It's not that I need you, I just don't have time to move on. Will fear of God send me to heaven? Or am I gonna need something more? 'Cause I've been terrified from the beginning. I just wanna know what I should prepare for. But the Bible hasn't given me comfort. I was baptized on a bedroom floor, where I was touched by something other than angels, and I just can't forget anymore. Will fear of God send me to heaven? Or am I gonna need something more? 'Cause I've been terrified from the beginning. I just wanna know what I should prepare for. But the Bible hasn't